Hello, this is Matt on the Moon Lambeau channel. Something happened that has never happened in the history of the United States, which is that a sitting United States senator filed an amicus brief against the SEC. And this is absolutely fantastic so far as I'm concerned. And I don't see how, and this is the Coinbase case, by the way, I just don't see how the SEC is going to come out victorious, in particular after what just happened in the SEC v. Ripple case. And it's just so interesting to see Coinbase using a bunch of Ripple's arguments, which worked out well for them in that case, and also just the devastating blow that the asset itself, XRP, is not the security. Well, what's the primary claim that the SEC has been making against Coinbase? It's that the assets themselves are the securities. Yeah, good luck pushing that. And now you have like Congress, by the way, working on drafting bills at a pace that I don't think we would have otherwise expected, and bipartisan support that I don't think we otherwise would have expected, if not for the positive ruling in the Ripple case. Not that necessarily anything's going to get approved under this administration. I understand Biden's still in charge and he's anti-crypto as ever, but it's just interesting to see the progress that we have there. And so I have perspective from a number of people, including attorney James Murphy, as well as attorney Jeremy Hogan. And it wasn't just this particular amicus brief that was filed. There were several amicus briefs that were filed at roughly the same time. And like, it's just, if you think back to the Ripple case, it was 17 amicus briefs that were filed. 15 were either pro-Ripple or pro-XRP or anti-SEC. 15 out of the 17, so good for our side. And that's just unprecedented. And here you have a bunch of them. It makes me wonder, I don't know if you guys had thought about this, but of course, as you guys recall, Coinbase filed an amicus brief in the Ripple case. Do you think Ripple's going to file file an amicus brief in the Coinbase lawsuit? It's possible. It's certainly possible, because it could impact them. I mean, especially if you think about, you could get into whether it's programmatic sales or institutional sales, but Ripple needs exchange partners. The ruling here could absolutely, because they have exchange partners. They have Bitstamp, and they had Bittrex in the United States until they went under. But anyway, and also, actually, I wanted to highlight this too. Sam Bankman-Fried, in case you hadn't heard yet, he's going back to jail. Bail revoked for witness tampering. I don't mind hearing that. That guy is absolutely awful, scum of the earth. But let's go ahead and jump right in here. And so there's this tweet from Eleanor Terrett, Fox Business journalist, and she wrote, in case you missed it, a couple of amicus briefs were filed today in support of Coinbase in its legal battle against the SEC. Prominent crypto industry groups, Crypto Council and Blockchain Association, filed a joint brief, as did two major VCs, Paradigm and Andreessen Horowitz. And so regarding the sitting senator, which is Senator Cynthia Lummis, Republican, Wyoming, here is what Attorney James Murphy had to say. He goes by the name Meta Lawman on Twitter, on X, formerly known as Twitter. I almost said that backwards. Senator Cynthia Lummis just filed an amicus brief supporting Coinbase's motion to dismiss the SEC's complaint. Senator Lummis is co-sponsor of the Lummis-Gillibrand crypto regulation bill. Senator Lummis's brief argues that, number one, Congress has not granted the SEC authority to regulate crypto assets. Now, folks, again, this has more oomph, wouldn't you say, when it's coming from a sitting senator, given that, the Senate is part of Congress, and Congress is what approves the powers that government agencies have. Don't you think that's a bit more powerful than just any random entity, even if the entity is respected just globally? This is way more powerful, and this flies in the face of the bogus assertions that the SEC has been making, that they have authority over all this stuff. And Gary Gensler, it's just so funny. I think it was during the nomination process before he was actually SEC chair. I think that's when he was stating publicly that, yeah, the SEC doesn't have the power to regulate these, cryptocurrency exchanges, but then he ends up getting in power, and then he's asserting that he does, and he's suing Coinbase and all this crap. Well, here you have Senator Lummis saying, no, you don't, Gary. You absolutely do not. Number two, defining the contours of crypto regulation in this country is a job for Congress and not the SEC. Amen, Brother Murphy. Absolutely correct. And number 3, the SEC's claim that virtually all crypto assets are securities, quote, exceeds the SEC's authority, encroaches on Congress's lawmaking, and contravenes the separation of powers, end quote. It is so good to see this. It is so fantastic to see this. And I'm still somewhat skeptical about Senator Lummis because she's done a complete 180 since just this past December, less than a damn year. She's talking about Bitcoin's the only thing that looks like it's not a security, or maybe she worded it that Bitcoin's the only commodity or this or that, and just insinuating that everything else is somehow an illegal security. She seems to have flipped completely. So I like that, but still, like, I haven't heard an explanation of what has changed her mind. She just did the thing. And it's funny that it's extra strong now that it's the end of the SEC v. Ripple case and things went well for us here in the XRP community, so that's something. And then Attorney Murphy says, in putting a new spin on the regulation by enforcement term, Senator Lummis declares that, quote, the SEC cannot legislate by enforcement, end quote. Fantastic. Attorney Jeremy Hogan retweeted that and said, a senator filing an amicus brief stating that the SEC has exceeded its authority as given to it by the Senate? First, that is very compelling. Second, wow. That is my legal analysis. And then the blockchain backer retweeted that and said, first time for a senator to file an amicus brief in a case opposing the SEC. Yes, indeed, history being made. Then there was this from the Chamber of Digital Commerce. They wrote, we're stepping in. We filed an amicus curiae brief in the SEC v. Coinbase case. Our goal? To end the SEC's attempt to regulate the digital asset industry without legislative authority. Absolutely. So I think Gary Gensler sees the writing on the wall. It's very clear. That's why he's going after AI now. He's shifting gears here. So he's no longer going full throttle on crypto. That's what it looks like to me anyway. Not that he's dropping the stuff that he's going after. Not that they won't be aggressive. But he recognizes that he needs something else that he can find success in to put on his resume if things are going to go well for him. He's going to keep climbing the career ladder. Then there's this from Jake Chervinsky, who is a lawyer, a chief policy officer at Blockchain Association. And he wrote, I'm very proud of the amicus brief we filed today in support of Coinbase's battle against the SEC. How digital assets should be regulated is a major question that only Congress can answer. Until then, the SEC's claim of authority must be rejected, and Coinbase should win. Also spot on. Here we have Miles Jennings, who is general counsel at Andreessen Horowitz. And he wrote, today, Andreessen Horowitz and Paradigm teamed up to file an amicus brief in SEC v. Coinbase. We argue that the SEC's approach is a significant and problematic expansion of its regulatory authority, even threatening purchases of Taylor Swift concert tickets and Teslas. Why? Well, first, the SEC's regulatory overreach has already jeopardized the development of blockchain technology in the U.S. While the SEC claims every token is part of an investment contract, they've stretched the definition beyond meaning. Moreover, the SEC's approach to crypto threatens to destabilize broad sectors of the economy, as it would sweep into its jurisdiction ordinary transactions of assets and collectibles that no one thinks are securities transactions. Oil, art, T-Swift tickets, cars, etc. Folks, this is what we've been arguing in the XRP community for over 2.5 years. And obviously we were right the whole time, but it's not the underlying asset that is the security. Duh. And then he continues and says, and finally, the SEC is currently leapfrogging Congress on the regulation of digital assets and doing so in a way that would ban the technology rather than facilitate its safe development. Ah, yes, exactly. And part of the SEC's mission is supposed to help with capital formation. This is the opposite of that, just destroying opportunity. And then there's this, and this should just make your heart feel whole. It should make it feel, you should feel warm, tinglies, and fuzziness inside, all that jazz, all that crap. Here's the headline from CNBC. U.S. judge sends FTX's Sam Bankman-Fried to jail over witness tampering. Damn straight, you little cucumber-loving son of a bitch. Enjoy jail. Reads as follows. Sam Bankman-Fried will head to jail on Friday after a judge sided with a request by federal prosecutors to revoke the FTX founder's bail over alleged witness tampering. Bankman-Fried was remanded to custody directly from a court hearing in New York. Judge Lewis Kaplan denied Bankman-Fried's request for delayed detention pending an appeal. Unless the appeal is successful, he is expected to remain in custody until his criminal trial, which is due to begin on October 2nd. And here's a quote from Judge Kaplan during the ruling. My conclusion is there is probable cause to believe the defendant tried to tamper with witnesses at least twice. End quote. So unless there's some sort of successful appeal, he's not going to see freedom again. In fact, since this I think it's pretty obvious. I know there's some people that are always just the conspiracy theory types. They're like, no, because of the connections, justice won't be done. Well, the same people said that crap about Judge Torres. It's in the bag, and the reason that she hasn't ruled on it is because it's, their connections, and she's just a puppet and blah, blah, blah. This guy. Well, that was wrong. And if you think that Sam Bankman-Fried ain't going to end up in jail, you're wrong. And it's just a question of what the term will be. Maybe we'll find that it's not harsh enough, or will be harsh enough. That'll be a subjective opinion for each of us, I suppose. I still think it's likely to be fairly harsh. But whether it's a decade or 2 or 3, I don't know. We'll see what happens here. And I haven't seen all the... Well, of course not. We haven't seen all of the evidence here. But this does mean, unless the appeal is successful, so trial's going to begin. It's not going to go well for SBF, and then he's going to go to jail. So he's seen his last day of freedom for potentially decades, depending on how this all goes. And good, this is a monster of a human. He destroyed people's lives. And they didn't really go into great length from really any article. I read multiple articles on this story, and none of them went into great detail, and there's probably good reason for that. But all we know, if I can find that, there's a quick... maybe this is there's one part that I didn't want to read the whole article, but there's one other part down here where if I can find it real quick, I can share it with you. But they're just talking about... maybe this was it. Yeah, I think this was it right here. They were talking about... Because I wanted to share with you more specifics about what he had to do, but I couldn't find anything with like a ton of detail. But check this out. The prosecution described the effort by Bankman-Fried, who faces several wire and securities fraud charges related to the alleged multi-billion-dollar FTX fraud, as an attempt to discredit Ellison. And so, pause note, Ellison is his ex-girlfriend who's running Alameda Research, the sister company. And so, anyway, as an attempt to discredit Allison, characterizing it as a means of indirect witness intimidation through the press. So, and there's something else in here. Let me see if I can find it. There's something about a diary. Yeah, here we go. Actually, maybe this is what I was thinking of. Yeah, check this out. In the motion requesting Bankman-Fried's detention, the government said that over the last several months, the defendant had sent over 100 emails to the media and had made over 1,000 phone calls to members of the press. The final straw, according to prosecutors, was Bankman-Fried leaking private diary entries of his ex-girlfriend, Caroline Ellison, to the New York Times. Ellison pleaded guilty to federal charges in December 2022. So there you go. Straw that broke the camel's back, apparently. But, yeah, this guy's screwed. Look, I was saying this all the way leading up to the decision in the SECB Ripple case. There is no perfect justice system, and sometimes justice isn't done. But I can tell you here in the United States, most of the time, what needs to be done is done. Most of the time, justice is done. And it's a messy process, and it's not always perfect. And sometimes it's the opposite of what's right. But most of the time, what should be done ends up being done. And I'm optimistic we're going to see that again here. Because if you're a betting man, then if you just bet that with every single case knowing none of the facts, you'll be right the strong majority of the time. Because we don't live in a banana republic, all right? I don't even know who's buying clothes, though. I'm not a financial advisor. You should not buy or sell anything because if anything I say are right, that would be a very, very, very bad idea. Until next time, to the moon, Lambo.